What's up everyone, it's your boy Scott, and today I have some news on some anime released on Netflix. A top 100 anime of the decade has been released, and I have the release date of two highly anticipated anime coming in the winter season. First up, Levius was released on Netflix on Friday, November 29th, and this was a kind of an odd release for the streaming service. To no one's surprise, this is a CG anime, and it's also by Polygon Pictures because that's all that they ever do. But what gets me is just the nature of this release with Levius that came out on Netflix. The manga for this series came out about 2012 and ran to about 2014, so it's not a new property. But Netflix actually decided to release this anime worldwide, and they actually meant it. Because the problem that I have with it is that Americans, when we're watching Netflix and dealing with Netflix, especially when it comes to anime, they just will not abandon that binge watching format. Therefore, when Netflix picks up an anime, we have a very long wait that we have to go through to see it. It's like they will get something, it won't be released in America because we have to wait to not only for it to be dubbed, but a lot of times Netflix tends to wait a quarter, maybe even two, before they decide to release it here. So for them to pick up this series Levius and actually have it worldwide, we're getting it at the same time as everyone else, it's a little bit weird. It really is, because one thing is a step in the right direction. This is kind of what we need. Like, I wish they would have did this for something like Beastars, for example. Like, I would have loved to have had to wait to know that we're going to get all 12 episodes, but we would get it at the same time as everyone else if they're not going to go ahead and release it weekly. But the choice to do it with such an odd series such as Levius, which is one that's kind of a low-key type of series, that's the thing that's a little bit odd. I would think if they were going to go ahead and go all in and release something first, you would think it would have been a bigger property. Levius predates Megalobox, but you're not going to get out of the comparisons that you're going to get for this series because for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, the curse of anime when you're dealing with sports is that you can't really do anything different with it. It's going to be always something that you've seen before. It's always about an underdog overcoming the odds. I mean, you rarely get an overdog. So it's always about overcoming the odds. But what we have with Levius, it's a story about the self-titled main character who lives in this post-apocalyptic / cyberpunk world, and people with cybernetic parts basically fight in arenas for survival. So things seem a little bit more bleak with Megalobox. You know, with Megalobox, Joe was fighting, you know, of course he was in debt, but he was also fighting for fame. Where Levius is selling it a little bit more to the point where Levius is actually fighting for survival, so that makes things a little bit more bleak than Megalobox in that sense. But again, overall, it's pretty much the same thing. It's dudes with mechanical arms and legs and what have you, and they're just fighting and boxing it out. And that's what we're getting with Levius as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Again, it's going to be very hard not to compare it to Megalobox. I myself, I have not checked it out yet, but because I love Cyberpunk, I'm definitely going to be checking it out. And this is clocking in at 12 episodes. So Levius is available on Netflix now. Check it out. I know I will, and let me know what you think. And next, we are just gonna up the hype because the long-awaited return of Haikyuu returns. Haikyuu Season 4 is almost here, guys. We have finally made it to being able to see that Haikyuu greatness once again with Season 4 appropriately called Over the Top. And the Friday hype will return with Haikyuu airing on Friday, January 10th. And not only are we going to get one core of Haikyuu, we're getting two cores of Haikyuu. Now, unfortunately, a second core is going to be split, but we are kicking back in with the Friday hype for Haikyuu, and oh man, I cannot wait. We have waited too long for this to return, and it's a little bit of a bummer that we're going to have to do a split core with it, but if that's what it's going to take for production IG to give us the injection of hype in the veins perfectly for Haikyuu, then by all means, take your time with it. We have waited long enough. We waited 3 years for Haikyuu to come back, so just waiting a little bit longer between that break. I mean, the way things are going, we probably would need to break as we finally get to see our boys again. We get to see our boys of Karasuno High back going into the summer Inner High tournament. Oh man. Just the excitement levels that Season 3 had, even with it being a shorter season with only 10 episodes and just, you know, just watching it with friends and hype and everything like that. This might be the first time that I'm fully immersed with the anime community of watching Haikyuu, because when Season 3 was out, I caught up to it and then watched it around the finale. Now I'm watching it from beginning to end with you guys, and it's just, uberly excited to get back to this, to see my boys just fly again. And they also have the OVA coming out as well, which is, of course, it's canon, but it's also more of a side story about the other schools. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about my boys at Karasuno. And also, we got Burnout Syndrome's back on the opening. And these guys with Haikyuu, it's kind of like Grand Rodeo with Kuroko no Basket. It's kind of like if they're not there on the tracks in some shape, form, or fashion, it just doesn't feel like Haikyuu at this point now. We always need them. I still listen to Fly High every day. I mean, that's probably my morning song. So Haikyuu's back, Burnout Syndrome's back, Production IG is back on it, of course. We're getting 2 cores, which is going to be split, and let the hype begin. And our next return is a return in a form that we probably didn't want, but we might have needed at the same time, and that is the return to the Madoka Magica universe. And in a tongue twister of a title, Magica Record Puella Magi Madoka Magica side story is an anime based off of a mobile game. So when you think of a mobile game going into an anime adaptation, you usually think that it isn't that good. But as of late, the anime adaptations that we've been getting for mobile games has been pretty decent, if not good. And I mean, just straight goods. Like look at Fate Geo and Azure Lane. Those are actually turned out pretty good. So that's a little bit of hope coming into this Madoka Magica series. Again, this is a side story, but it's also in a pretty weird spot because not only is this a side story, this can also be seen as a sequel, and here's why. Because it does actually tie into the original. We have our main character, and I believe her name is Aroha. So Aroha is looking for her sister because, you know, girls are still getting duped into taking these magical girl contracts and dealing with QB and his shady ass. So while she's looking for her sister, and we're going to see other magical girls, and we also have the return of Madoka as well, who is coming into the fray, and she's looking for our favorite girl, Hamura. So that's pretty interesting how that's going to tie in together. So we kind of have this break off of like a side story slash a mobile game with the Aroha, who is the new character, and then we have the return of Madoka as well, looking for the friend, kind of leaving us off where it left off. It kind of merges things together, which makes it more of a true sequel, and there's also more things tied to it that makes it more of a sequel as well, because Studio Shaft is actually back on this, and the original staff is back on it. So I don't think they're gonna half-ass this too much with the actual studio back on it. It looks like they're really putting a lot of time into this, and it can be seen as a true sequel instead of just looking at it like, oh, it's just a side story, it's just something they decided to do with a mobile game, I don't really need to watch it. I think you really do need to watch this one because it's being treated as a sequel. Now I know they did show the first 2 episodes at Anime NYC, the convention, a few weeks back, and from what I've heard from people that went to it, it was actually pretty good. So if you love Madoka Magica, you're probably gonna love this series. That excites me about watching it even more. Madoka Magica is one of those must-see anime, and if for some reason you still haven't seen it right now, by all means go and watch it, especially if you love psychological anime, especially if you love dark anime, if you like seeing magical girls get messed up like me, which is kind of alright, but hey, you like what you like, then this is definitely up your alley with the return. And speaking of anime that you must see, this is a nice segue into my other topic that I have for the news today. It's amazing that we are on the cusp in just a few weeks, or maybe even a few days, depending on how you look at it, that we are ending a decade. We're heading into a brand new decade of anime coming in 2020 as 2019 comes to a close. So you are now into the point where we're having that conversation of what was some of the best anime of the decade. Well, Crunchyroll decided to take it upon themselves to make that list a little bit easier for you to determine. Crunchyroll has taken a look at the last 10 years of anime. They decided to round them all up and decided to say, hey, here is the top 100 anime of the decade. And they decided to do it very professionally. They decided to do it very classy and not give these numbers. They actually put it into alphabetical order, because if you get to taking all of this anime that we've had in the past decade and you start giving them a number and putting them in ranks, yeah, that's a war you don't really want to get into. So I really respect the approach that they took about this one. They just decided just to take 100, put them in alphabetical order, and say, here are the ones that we feel that you need to watch. And a lot of them are spot on. I mean, we get so much anime on a weekly basis now. I mean, if you even go back and look at things that came out 10 years ago, because long running anime was more prominent, if you take a look at it now, we're getting 30, 40 anime a season, versus, you know, maybe 10 years ago, we were only getting like maybe 20 at most because most things were long running. So even to narrow it down to 100 is still a feat in itself. But at the same time, to actually say these are the definitive 100 of the decade, I gotta clap it up for Crunchyroll on that, for them to keep it all together. Also, with the 100 anime, it's going to be hard to say where is my anime, because I'm pretty sure some of your favorites are on there, but at the same time, this is also a good list for you to look at if you have some stuff in your backlog, or if you're interested in checking something out. You at least have a guideline to look at some of the very best, so I think that is a good thing as well. If you're interested in checking out Crunchyroll's top 100 anime of the last 10 years, a decade, however you want to call it, I had a link in the description, so go ahead and check that out. And that's it for today's news. So are you going to go ahead and watch Levius? Definitely let me know what you guys think about that. Are you excited as I am for Haikyuu returning? What about Madoka Magica? Let me know how you feel about those coming back into the fray. And also Crunchyroll with their top 100 anime of the decade list. Check that out. And let me know some of your favorite anime of the past decade as well. Again, it's just amazing that it's been 10 years already. But we gotta keep moving. Now we're heading into a new generation, and let's see what 2020 has to offer from there. So as always, if you liked the video, go ahead and drop it a like, and if you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because there's not a shortage of content for you guys to indulge on this channel. And I know, like, every few months I give you this, I'm doing this reboot thing. No, this is the lane we're in. We're gonna do this news thing. I am thinking about coming back to, you know, episode reviews. We'll just have to see how things go, but for now, at least expect news on this channel, because I just like talking about this stuff, and I gotta find a way to talk to you guys because I miss you. I miss talking to you guys. So anyway, if you like the video, go ahead and drop it a like, and if you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because not as sure the content for you to indulge on this channel. And as I always say, you guys can be anywhere on YouTube right now, but you chose to listen to me. I really appreciate that, so thanks for stopping by. On that note, it's your boy Scott signing out. See you soon.